Hey y'all, welcome back to Poplar Creek Farm. Today I am going to talk to you guys about something that has been stressing me out to no end for the past couple weeks. As many of you guys know, and if you've been watching my videos for a while, I am starting a farm business, very small scale, but one of the things I want to do is go to farmers markets. That is obviously somewhere I want to sell, and being that this is my first time, never been to a farmer's market other than to purchase things. I've never sold at a farmer's market or craft fairs or anything. I never knew all of the ins and outs that go into farmer's markets. And now that I do, it is a lot more stressful than I ever anticipated. So I initially was like, all right, let me just look at some farmer's markets. Probably not super expensive. Can't be that much that I need. First thing I noticed from pretty much every farmer's market I looked at is that I need a liability policy. Most of them are a similar price or similar, they require a certain amount of liability policy, which just I didn't expect. So then that's something I had to look into. Fortunately, I do have friends that have a farm of their own and they do raise meat chickens, and they were able to kind of guide me in the right direction of who to contact. And it's not an outrageous cost. So what they do is they actually couple it with your homeowner's insurance, and it's a additional cost to your insurance. It's not an outrageous amount more than our insurance already was, but it's still gonna cut into profits, obviously. Anything you have to pay for that it's something like it's not an ingredient that you're going to be using in your product, or a part of your product, that cuts profits. So basically, say, I'm not going to give all the exact numbers, but say I can sell everything and make a profit of $5 on an item, which again, in my items they vary quite a bit, but I'm putting this kind of broad terms. So you can sell items for $5 a profit, and then you have to pay $100 for a liability policy. You have to, all that, up to $100 that you're selling products for, you're making no money. And that's frustrating, but it's part of the farmer's market game. It's part of what I have to do to be able to sell at farmer's markets. And obviously I'm going to sell more at farmer's markets than I am necessarily on Facebook or Etsy or Craigslist and at the roadside stands. But then you start looking at the rules. And so my plan was to sell soaps, lotions, creams, lip balms, beeswax products, honey. I did plan on selling some plants, some seed starts, some produce, and also meat animals, meat chickens, to start just meat chickens. And then you have to go down and look at each individual thing you're going to make. So soaps, lotions, lip balms, those things kind of fall into one category. Crafts, and there's not a whole lot you need for that other than, like I said, liability policy. Then you go ahead and look at honey, and again, not a huge thing, just the labels, properly labeling things, no licensure. Kind of what started to get me like really stressed out was the meat chickens and the meat animals, because that has to be, when you look at it initially, you see, oh, you have to have a license. You have to have these USDA butchered. And fortunately in New York State, there's an exemption to the law, which is if you're raising and butchering less than 1,000 chickens a year, you can raise and butcher your own chickens on your property, and there's no licensure that's required. So fortunately, we were able to kind of go through that and skip that licensure, which was really nice. Not that, again, you still have to have liability policy and you still have to have it labeled properly. The other thing that I okay, crafts easy, eggs, honey, those are all actually fairly easy because you have to have the liability policy even just to go there, and you also have to have a tax ID. But plants, like the chickens were stressing me out big time, because I was like, oh, I can't do this. I have to have a license. I have to have a USC butchered. Well, then I'm not going to have any profit. That's silly. I'm not going to do this. But then once I found that exemption, okay, I can do that. Plants, you have to have a nursery license. Like, I understand it to an extent, but when I'm just selling a couple hundred seedlings, I don't totally understand why I have to have a nursery license. No, that's not for every farmer's market. The smaller farmer's markets are not as strict, but a lot of them do require a nursery license for selling plants, which is a little frustrating. What I will do for the plant sale, because I do sell plants every year, and I sold them at the roadside last year, I'm going to sell them at the roadside. I'm also going to sell them at the roadside up in my aunt and uncle's house, because they get significant more traffic. And I may even put a few out at my parents' house because they're in a neighborhood, and just see what I can sell. And I won't sell them at a farmer's market at all, which, okay, not a big deal. But it's just like all these little rules and these little things that you have to have. And like, I mean, your eggs, they have to have the contents, the grade. I have it, I mean, this is New York State, so it's all different per state and whatever, but and then there's this whole slew, this like big statement it has to have on them, which I understand, but it's just like another thing to have to add on. So there's a lot that goes into the legalities of farmers markets, and a lot that goes into behind the scenes before you even can set up a stand. So I thought, okay, I'll sign up. I'll be able to go set up a stand and start selling. And it's like, no, you can't do that. Before you can even set up, you have to get that liability. You have to get that tax ID, which FYI, you have to pay for a tax ID. Did not know that. Not that I should have expected in New York State, you know, gotta pay for everything, but you have to pay for a tax ID. And you also have to, many of them require you have some kind of banner. And then there's proper storage of, say you are raising, you're, you know, selling and raising meat chickens or eggs, you have to have them stored at a certain temperature. And so you can pay this price and get a stand with no power, or you can pay more and get a stand with power, but then I also have to have a cooler or something that's going to continually chill my stuff. And selling in the middle of summer, obviously it's going to be significantly more difficult to keep things at certain temperatures. So for the most part, what I'm going to do to start out is actually have pre-orders for chickens. I'm going to have a pre-order form with people's name, address, their phone number, the amount, and I'm gonna have a deposit for their chickens, so that I don't have to be bringing as many of the chickens to the market. Now I can also sell cuts of meat chickens, so I can sell, you know, I can sell chicken breasts, I can sell chicken thighs, I can sell chicken wings, all separately. I cannot sell any ground meat or sausages because I'm a home butcher. I cannot do any of those things, so it has to be, they have to be in full form, but you can cut. If I go to a point of having, you know, pork that I'm selling and everything, and that I have to have a USDA slaughter, which makes sense for that. That's a lot larger of an item. And that you can have sausages, and then I could have some chickens done up in sausage if I really wanted to, and sell. But it's just, it was mind boggling when I started looking into all this stuff and figuring out, can I even do this? Can I even make money? Because again, I had to pay for liability. I had to pay for the tax ID. I had to pay for the banner. Now the banner and the tax ID are a one-time purchase. Those will, you know, go forever. The liability is yearly. You just pay for the stand. And when I was looking at some craft fairs, initially that I wouldn't be selling meat. I'd be selling my honey. I'd be selling honey or beeswax products. I'd be selling soaps, lotions. But those are, you know, for one weekend, and it's $300, whereas I can get a stand in a farmer's market for 25 weeks for $250. Which one makes more sense? You know, obviously the farmers markets are going to make more sense. I am going to still try to continually look for for craft fairs, just on a smaller scale. I'm going to look for smaller craft fairs. There's one big craft fair that I'm hoping to go to, because they get a ton of foot traffic. But I haven't figured out the cost yet. They have not emailed me back, so I'm going to call them this week and just see. But these are the steps you have to take. These are the things you have to look into prior to even being able to set up a stand. I can't even go and do any of those things until I have all these things done beforehand, which is frustrating and scary and a little overwhelming at times, but it's worth it. It'll definitely be worth it in the end, I hope. So in the first year, I think it's going to be just the biggest cost-wise, because again, you have to get the tax ID, and you have to have things like a banner made, and we fortunately have the tent and we have tables and whatnot, but there's still other things you have to look at and purchase. And so it's a lot upfront cost to see if you can even make a little bit of money. So I'm really looking forward to doing this. And I am, like I said, I am signing up for one. I'm going to be signing up for the Oneida County markets for the summer session. Initially, I'm just going to do the summer session because, like I said, I'm going to look for craft fairs, hopefully over the winter, holiday craft fairs, things like that. And hopefully that'll be where I sell more of my craft items, but we'll see. So, and hopefully my bees survive, and hopefully I can have honey and beeswax and all those things to continue this, the business. Obviously, I will, if my bees all did die, I will contact local beekeepers for some nooks and see if I can purchase any still, and we'll still continue to expand there as much as possible, but we'll see. So guys, if you are looking into farmers markets or craft fairs or anything, because even some of the craft fairs require liability depending on what you're doing, or require tax IDs depending on what you're selling, you know, start looking into this long before you actually plan on going ahead and doing these, because you're going to need to know what all the back things you need, like I just said, and you're also going to need to know, what do I need on my labels? What do I need on, what do I need? Do I need a banner? Do I have to have something that says what I'm doing? You know, what are all the requirements? Because there are a lot more than I anticipated. So thank you guys for hanging out with me today. I hope this helps you guys if you are looking into doing this. And I don't want it to scare anybody because I'm still doing it, but it's just, you need to look into it before you kind of jump into, hey, yeah, I'm going to do farmers markets. I'm going to make tons of money at farmers markets. Well, look into it first. Figure out where you can make your profits, and what your profits will be and what you have to sell just to be able to even make profit. So remember guys, we're growing today for a better tomorrow. Like and subscribe and join me on the next one.